Hello, this video is a question for Pastor Eric Louw and Dr. Michael Campbell. For those who don't know, Dr. Campbell is currently a professor of religion at Southwestern, and Pastor Louw is currently a vice president for the GYC. One of the stated goals of the GYC is, look at this, to defend the teachings of the Adventist Church. Recently, with Pastor David Hamstra, they released the SDA conspiracy chart, Louw, right here, and then published a video discussion about the chart. What is interesting is the inclusion right here of elective abortions in Adventist hospitals, and this proves a very important point. There is a big difference between the moral position of the church, its teaching, and what happens in our hospitals, as has been documented repeatedly. Whenever Adventists, especially Adventists in North America, talk about abortion, they try as much as possible to turn people's attention away from the moral position to the hospitals and ignore the church's teaching. Take notice that nowhere on this chart does it deny that the church supports abortion. When the General Conference appealed to the Supreme Court claiming that abortion was a religious liberty, that's not conspiracy theory, that's a documented fact. When Adventist institutions openly honor the most notorious abortionist who boasted of killing over 250,000 children, that's not theory, that's a fact. Dr. Allred boasted in the newspaper that he specifically targeted Black and Hispanic children for violence. That's not a conspiracy, that's fact. Notice very carefully that neither Pastor Eric Louw nor Michael Campbell will utter even one word of condemnation or protest. You can publicly boast in the newspaper of killing hundreds of thousands of little children. You can publicly boast of targeting minorities for violence, and they won't say one word. But oh, if you want to talk about the obelisk on Ellen White's grave, oh my, they're all over that. Allred boasted of violently dismembering 100 children every Seventh-day Sabbath, and they won't say one word. But triangles, they're all over those triangles. Gotta make sure you talk about the triangles. The Adventist Church has publicly claimed for decades that killing children is a religious issue, a matter of conscience and religious liberty. Where is the scripture to support this claim? The GYC publicly boasts that it can defend the teachings of the Adventist Church. And though the GYC has had no problem condemning every other problem in the church, it has been completely, remarkably silent about our support for the killing of children. Why is that? After 1970-71, church members were told that Adventist involvement in abortion was a conspiracy. But after it was exposed in the 1980s by the international media, suddenly conspiracy theory became fact. After 1992, the church was told repeatedly for decades that we did not support abortion, that our position, oh, it was biblical, and any claim otherwise was just, that's right, a conspiracy. But then it was admitted that this position was so bad, it had to be rescinded. Conspiracy theory again became fact. In 2019, when the new position was being passed, people like Doug Batchelor, who questioned the vague language and apparent loophole in Section 6, anyone like Pastor Doug, who questioned the new statement, were described as conspiracy theorists. We were told repeatedly by church leaders like Mark Finley that this vague language did not, oh no, he said, it did not allow for elective abortion, that anyone who questioned this did not understand. You just don't understand. And then surprise, the official protocol published by the GC contained the exact same mental health loophole used in Roe versus Wade to justify abortion on demand. The outrage was so bad that the GC had to delete their protocol. Again, conspiracy theory became fact. Are you beginning to notice a pattern here? Recently, a wealthy Adventist offered $2 million for the Bible verse supporting our church's position on abortion, and strangely, nobody seems interested in that $2 million. How could that be? The GYC and theologians and professors publicly boast that they can defend the teachings of the Adventist Church, yet when you ask them about abortion, they become remarkably silent. How could that be? What's going on here? The official books of the church, What Adventists Believe, and the official dictionaries all claim that the living unborn child is not a living human being until after it is born. This is a fantastically absurd claim that contradicts both medical science and the scriptures. In both the Old and New Testaments, the authors of the Bible consistently and unanimously defined the unborn as living human children, but when the Adventist Church denies the humanity of an entire segment of the human race, you'd rather talk about the faked moon landing. Okay. Again, I'm not asking about hospitals. Forget the hospitals. I'm specifically asking about our moral position. Dr. Campbell or Pastor Louw would never make the mistake of telling people that there are exceptions to deliberately withhold tithe from the church. But when it's publicly taught that yes, there are exceptions to deliberately murder children, we need an explanation for this. In the 19th century, slaveholders in the South claimed that owning slaves was a matter of, read it with me, of conscience, and that they could not be coerced. If someone in the GYC or the Adventist Church made that claim today, they would be condemned immediately. If someone claimed that rape or child molestation was a matter of conscience, they would be condemned on the spot immediately. But when people in our church use this exact same argument to justify violently killing little boys and girls, those people who profess that our youth should become like Christ talk instead of triangles. The questions that I am asking are reasonable, they are fair and legitimate. As a baptized, supportive, tithe-returning member of the Adventist Church, I would like Dr. Campbell and Pastor Louw to answer this question because that's what men do. One of the most defining characteristics of godly masculinity is to oppose violence towards children. If you have the time to publicly talk about David Gates' futurism, oh my, then you should have no problem explaining our church's support for killing children. Dr. Allred, who violently dismembered over 250,000 little boys and girls, is celebrated as an example for Adventist youth, but you'd rather spend time talking about the faked moon landing. If you are truly concerned about training up a generation of youth for Christ, you might want to change your topic.